Hey Sophia, I actually have something to tell you. It's really important.
Oh my god, what is it?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you. You're gonna have to actually wait till episode 4 of KYTL. But welcome to KYTL episode 3. I'm super excited to get into it. Another good episode. I'm ready.
Great episode. Super exciting.
Okay, so yeah. So we start with immediately after the crazy tribal of last episode. I don't even want to think about that episode. It's in the past. It's gone.
Hearts in the chat
Rest in
for
peace,
Abby.
Yeah, I'm gonna find ways to talk about Abby every single episode. Don't worry. You will get the Abby content.
We will.
It's gonna be like the final week, and I'm gonna be like, I think Abby had a part in this move if you think about it.
You really think back to the first episode, in the first minute when we saw our queen, Abby. She did this, and that. And then all the people are gonna be like, guys, it's literally the finale. She was boot number 2. We're gonna be like, exactly.
Nah, mastermind of the season. She was planting the seeds.
Literally. Okay, let's get in post-tribal.
Okay, so yeah, we basically cut to the end of tribal, and we find out that Abby's going home, and it's that we get kind of like the perspective from everyone about like what happened. People kind of seem to think that like it seems to be a very clear division of like how the vote happened.
Yeah.
Like obviously Luke and Stephanie were on the bottom of that vote. And I think did Emily vote with them?
Yeah, I feel like I think Emily did vote with them. Cuz it was kind of close. But
yeah,
Emily
it was
has
like a
this,
4-6 vote.
Yeah, Emily has this like section where she's like at the beginning of this episode where she's like, I don't know what's happening in this game. She like finally sort of clicks into her brain like, oh, I'm playing Survivor. She's not joined this club to just like sit around and I think she said eat snacks. Like there is stress.
There was a quote where she basically said, "This is not a club to have fun in."
Yeah, and then like that is what she said.
I think that's what she was kind of hoping for. Like she was like, oh, like let me have a better social life like this semester. I didn't like talk to anyone last semester, so this will be good for me. And obviously I think she didn't realize exactly what she was getting into, which happens a lot. But I do like that she's owning up to it and not being like, oh, like this isn't for me. She's like, it's not what I thought it is, but it's not what I thought it was going to be, but I'm going to own that and like roll with the punches. And I really do like that. I think like I really like what we see from Emily this episode because she was on the bottom. Like obviously I think if you look at it from like the perspective of like Abby just went home, Luke and Stephanie, where Abby's close style is, they're also on the bottom. But at least edit wise, it seems like Emily was probably in like the worst spot. Every single person was like, yeah, like the vote's probably going to be Emily next, and it doesn't even happen.
Yeah, I mean, her name's been thrown out at every single tribal council so far, even the one that we're going to talk about today. So I'm glad she's like finally starting to talk to people. And I'm interested to see how she develops as a character now that she kind of understands what's happening.
Yeah, like she like fully admits that like she wasn't talking to people, and she seems to like even in this first segment, like you can tell she's starting to get in the good graces of people.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see like if that actually develops or if it's too late for Emily.
Yeah, I guess.
Other than that, like right after tribal, we don't get too much. I think there was one thing I noted, and they like I don't remember who said this, but I think like I think it was Luke and or Stephanie, and they basically are like not mad at Lindsay per se, but they definitely view Lindsay as like a minion on the other side, just doing what she's told.
Yeah, I wrote down that Luke and Stephanie called Lindsay a Noah follower and just kind of does whatever he says. I get it, early game doing that, like going with the flow, but at the same time, gotta have some skin in the game and make some decisions on
No,
your
and it's
own.
like I think it makes it that more like annoying that Lindsay didn't vote with Luke and Stephanie because they would have had the numbers. Like Lindsay had the extra vote. It would have been 6-4. But for whatever reason, Lindsay feels more comfortable with like Ian and Noah than like Luke, Stephanie, and Abby. Probably, I think like my reasoning, if I was Lindsay and I ended up going with Noah and Ian, is Luke, Stephanie, and Abby are probably a very visible trio.
Yeah.
And that's really scary to win because you're so obviously on the bottom.
Yeah.
Whereas this big conglomerate of like Grace and Tejas and Ian and Noah and well, I guess and Lindsay, that's not necessarily there's like not as obvious of a structure, even
Yeah.
though it's just everyone and then Lindsay at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which is technically worse. Like I'd rather be on the bottom of a like 4-person alliance than a 5-person alliance, but like I see where Lindsay's coming from. It's just like it's not the right move.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. It's still the early game.
Yeah. So then we get a segment from Ian and Noah that like I alluded to earlier in the intro of the episode where Ian is like, "Hey Noah, like I have to tell you something," and then it just like cuts and then doesn't mention it at all the entire episode.
No. I was sitting there like, all right, this is so cool. Great way to start the episode. Keep people hooked, watching till the end. And then there was nothing.
Yeah, and like, see, sometimes I'm known to miss important details, so I was a little worried that like I just somehow missed this entire segment. I was like, maybe I accidentally like fast forward through it. Like, what? Where was this? But like, I checked Discord. I'm checked with you. Like, there was no fruition of it, which I think is fine. Like, I'm guessing George is editing this to kind of like build up to this like big event that's gonna happen, and we just don't know what it is. And I do like that illusion. I wish maybe there was like a little more build up, but it's kind of like I'm sure the only build up you can do without leaking anything is, hey, I have something to tell you.
Yeah.
So, you know, makes sense. I hope we do get it next episode just because it's like I feel like this has been alluded to like multiple times, and it's like, when did it even happen in the game? Like, did it happen like week 1 and we're just not told it? Did it happen like when we're going to actually see it, but we're like being alluded to it earlier anyways? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting plot point that I wonder hopefully it gets explained nicely. But
That'd be
I don't
funny.
know.
Like, imagine it's just never like the entire season is just like it never turns into anything, and George is like, "Oh shit, I forgot to put that in."
What if George is just like either that or just kind of trolling everyone?
Yeah, it could literally be like the most like mundane thing ever. Like, Noah, I have to I have to tell you something, and then it's I don't know. I don't have a good lie, but it would just be like, okay, you can't tell anybody this. I love waffles. Okay. I know
Roger,
it's like game changing.
how did you tell that? What?
I'm sorry, but you can't tell anyone, Sophia. If you tell
I
anyone,
won't.
my game is over.
I will tell everyone that you love pancakes, I promise.
Okay, that's good with me. I do like pancakes, so it's not even a lie.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a funny situation, and hopefully, like we'll see what that entails.
Oh yes,
but it does like it seems to be a big plot point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Noah and Ian are such big characters in this season, and like when Ian goes, "Noah, I have to tell you something." Literally, they're sitting next to each other. Noah looks shocked, and Ian's like, "Ugh." It's just like it has to be something interesting.
And I will say, like, if I had to guess, like, I do know people, as much as I've loved this season, I know some people have been criticizing like the fact that prod members are playing and that maybe like the prod members are dominating the game. first of all, it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Second of all, like they already have been targeted. Like Noah and Ian are like barely scraping by. Like yes, they have people to protect them, but I think that's more on like them being good players than like being helped because they were on production really. And if I had to guess, I would think that this buildup of Ian telling Noah something has to do maybe with like George and Katie. Potentially.
Yeah. Like I wonder if Ian found out. Because I feel I don't remember
very possible.
when, but I don't know if it was sometime this episode or last episode, but Katie and George were talking and it cut to like a Katie confessional and she's like, yeah, Ian doesn't even know that we're dating or like or going to start dating.
And from what we've seen from Ian, if he finds out something that he does not like, he is going to blow it up. Like,
yeah.
Which I think will be awesome for the episode because I think in case we are worried of a prod member domination or whatever, that's completely negated as soon as they go after each other.
Exactly. So I'm sure it's gonna be like a Clash of the Titans thing, like if they make merge or whatever happens next, but I think it's gonna be really cool to see these big characters sort of go after each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, before the challenge, we get some more Obsidian content because we are lacking of it. And it sort of starts with Mason and Justin. And Mason's just like, yeah, I really like Justin, and they're thinking about making a 3 with T-Rex. And
it's a really funny 3.
It's not a 3 I was expecting. Like
no, like it's funny because like if you look at their like if you take their survivor knowledge out of it and you just like you as people, I think it makes sense. But given their like survivor knowledge, it does make it a really weird alliance.
Yeah, it's super funny to me. I don't know, like Justin is very much.
I think any alliance with T-Rex is funny to me.
and
I love
and the
T-Rex,
other bit that there was
just
that
like
was T-Rex trying to start another bonding opportunity, and then they cut to the hot tub scene.
Okay, well, I feel like every Survivor Michigan season has had a hot tub. Where was the hot tub when I played? I'm like kind of mad about this. Like
I know
spoilers for my season, but there was no hot tub.
Because no one was living in the Foundry during season 8.
I guess spoilers. I guess no one was living in the Foundry
that we know of.
Or maybe they all had a hot tub party without me. It's gonna cut to a season 8's airing, and it's gonna cut to a hot tub scene, and I'm be like, "Fuck, I missed the hot tub."
That's too good. Yeah, but I thought that was really funny. And Justin tells Mason
there was T-Rex at one point, like before that. Oh, sorry. The audio delay is like fucking.
It's so bad.
Like, keep talking at the same time.
You're good. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Okay, I was gonna. Well, you might have just said this. I like didn't hear exactly what you said, so if I just repeated what you said, I apologize. But so yeah, we're talking about like the hot tub scene, and right before that was T-Rex, and he was like talking about like his strategy, and basically all he said was don't miss gatherings.
Yeah,
he's like, if you miss gatherings, you're probably gonna get targeted. And I was like, yeah, that's good.
Fair enough.
And I think that's like the level of strategy we're seeing from T-Rex, which is totally fine. Like it's a complex game, and I think like looking at it from such a simple perspective sometimes can be the best way.
Oh yeah, and it's T-Rex. I just need more T-Rex content. Like we've gotten a good dose today, this episode, but I want to see what he does next. He's a mastermind.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but we do get more content than just T-Rex. Like we said, we got Mason and Justin, and they seem to be kind of forming as this pair. They're both in the school of Ross aka the school business. And I think like it makes sense for them to want to work together. Like there's not, I don't know. I think like I see why they're working together. I just think it sounds like they're either both of them or one of them are like lying about their major, and people catch on to it really quickly. They're like, we know you're both in the school of Ross.
Yeah, like that's not hard to cover up. Or that's hard to cover up.
No. And I like I'll say like I think they probably, regardless of if they're actually working together, it sounds like people were gonna pair them together regardless. So
yeah,
if you're in a situation like that, you might as well work together. I'm just curious to see like if they can overcome the target that they've put on themselves for being such a tight duo, because like they seem to be pretty visible. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, like Mason and Justin are working together.
Yeah. And maybe that's like why they want to pull T-Rex in to sort of like mitigate their perception as a pair. But either way, they're still super tight, and like within that 6 of all the people that were at the I think they mention it later, but like Justin and Mason are both in that 6, and it's easy to like pair them off into groups.
We also get a segment about Justin, like he knows that there's producers in this game, and he decides to tell Mason that information, which I think kind of just solidified that trust within that too, and probably bonded them even closer.
Yeah, I think I'm happy. I'm excited to see them work together. I love a good freshman senior duo. It's super fun, and I think that they're gonna do good things.
Yeah. And then we do get a little segment from Anne, and like I just wrote Anne in the middle. Maybe it wasn't a segment from her, but like it does, I think someone like mentioned that like she's like in the middle and hasn't necessarily like picked a side yet.
Yeah, that's sort of what it seems like. I don't think Anne has been to many of the things that Obsidian's done. And maybe that's just like, she's pretty busy and like has other things because this is College Survivor and we are playing as college students.
Yeah.
But I mean, don't want to jump too far ahead, but we kind of know where that goes with Anne being in the middle and not picking a side. But even I also have that about the Jack and George conversation. And maybe this wasn't like a conversation, but I just have Jack and George, and like George calls Jack the super sleuth. Because Jack sort of knows all these things about all the prod members. And they sort of talk about like all of the connections that Katie has and how she's getting super close to people on her tribe and how she's connected to others on the other tribe. And George then goes to say that the only thing Jack does not know is that George and Katie are dating. And I feel like that
I really like the work from George here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like that has to be the bomb drop of like, I have to tell you something. Like, they keep hinting as it's like, this is the one thing people don't know.
Yeah, I do feel like the bomb is gonna drop soon, but I like that it's like building up to it. I will say I really liked the work George was putting in here. Like he seems to do a really good job of separating himself from Katie. Obviously, they don't know that they're dating, but what they do know is that they like are both involved in production, and George is doing a really good job of making sure that people like don't think they're working together. Like George is going through Katie's relationships, and like from an outside perspective, it looks like they can't be that close if he's telling everything about her to me. And that is what George is doing, but it's kind of like a reverse psychology method where it's like, if I tell this person everything about Katie, then they're not going to think we're working together, but we are. And we want to work with Jack anyways, so there's no reason to hide like that information about Katie.
Yeah. Totally. And it's sort of like right before the challenge starts, sort of just kind of revealed that, like, Obsidian is just so interconnected with all of these prior connections, and even Sokka to some extent
Mhm.
with, like, I Noah and Taylor know each other from Quidditch sort of thing,
Yeah, they know each other
and
from Quidditch.
yeah, iconic. But it's gonna be so interesting to see how it unfolds because everyone's so connected, but they don't wanna, like, tell anyone. So, like, when are the beans gonna be spilled?
I I would disagree that they don't wanna tell like, people have spilt, like, a lot, like, we know a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
these
true.
connections are, like, pretty obvious, like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the producer connections wasn't necessarily them well, I mean, Katie, like, told people she was on prod, obviously,
Yeah.
George was on prod, but, like, Ian didn't tell anyone, but, like, I think
Oh,
Noah
yeah.
was telling everyone that he knew Taylor,
Yeah.
so, like and
Maybe
I get it, sometimes it's like people are gonna find out about certain things, and if they do, you're like fucked because you hid that information for so long to your closest allies. So by
mhm.
letting it out in the open, you're kind of first you're like selling yourself as an honest person from the get-go, which I think is an important thing if you want to set your tone and people will you want to set your perception at the start of the game so people think you are an honest person even
Yeah.
if you're not. And I
Yeah.
think by like being like, hey, I know this person, you immediately go, oh, this person's probably not good at Survivor. They just gave away a key relationship.
Yeah.
And you can kind of use that to like be underestimated.
True. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. I
But
like that.
I think I'm also just justifying him telling people it probably wasn't a good move.
Who knows? It'll
Especially for Taylor. Taylor probably wasn't happy about like everyone knowing that they know each other. I don't even know if they're that close. It sounds like they're on the Quidditch team together. Like we haven't gotten a Noah Taylor segment.
yeah, so I guess we don't really
I don't
know.
think so. Like I mean, I would assume if they didn't like go come together and film like, oh my gosh, we're playing together, they're probably like acquaintances at best.
Yeah, which is, like, something that kinda sucks about, like, those prior relationships that people find out or even tell you about. It's like, it makes you seem like so much more of a threat when it's like, I barely know this person, like, we are in the same club, but, like, that can be so distant, especially, like, depending on how big a club is and just, like, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's why some people are more willing to tell other people because in their mind it's not important at all. They're like, I don't know this person. It doesn't change how I think about them.
Yeah.
But to everyone else, all they hear is, I know this person, and whatever else you say is like redundant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yup. Alright, so
Okay, we can
next
move on to the challenge.
challenge! Um, I liked this challenge a
You're
lot.
so behind, Sophia. You were like, challenge. That's how my audio looked like. It was so funny.
Oh, boy. Amazing. But this was a really cool
Anyways,
challenge. Um,
fun challenge. So we find out that there's no difference maker, but there is a difference in how tribe was gonna win. I like the way Brady did it. That was smart.
oh, Brady.
And we find out that both tribes are going to tribal, which super fun. I'm glad there's not a difference maker. I feel like with like both tribes going, it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
Like especially edit wise, it's like you have to already show two tribes going to tribal. A whole nother segment about the difference maker is just gonna add another like 15 minutes and like there's no reason to do that. So good call on prod for not having a difference maker segment this episode.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a really cool challenge. It was I will call this tennis ball musical chairs, and
Yeah, good
basically
name.
both tribes were fighting for individual immunity rather than, tribal immunity because this was gonna be a double tribal. And basically how the challenge ran was, obviously, if you saw it, each tribe would go, like, one at a time. If there was 8 members looking for tennis balls, there would only be 7 tennis balls out there. So on and so forth until everyone is eliminated down to the two people who won individual immunity from each tribe. They would go head to head and um, fight it out for a tennis ball to determine who goes to tribal council first or second. Um,
Yeah.
Overall, the challenge wasn't super interesting except for the fight between Thagus and Stephanie. Um,
Yeah,
that
I was
was
gonna say like early on. I was gonna say early on there was a part where they're all grabbing their balls, and I just hear a producer. It was kind of quiet, but in the back you can hear a producer say, "You know you can tackle, right?"
I think that was Aaron. Aaron was trying to get more
And
content.
yeah, I heard that and I was a little disappointed. I was like, "Where's the tackling? No one is doing anything. They're just grabbing the balls." And I get it. Like, you don't want to be the person to start tackling someone. But at the
Yeah.
same time, as a viewer, I want to see people get tackled. But like also like I want people to stay safe. So I get it.
Yeah.
But yes, we did get a fun little Tejas and Stephanie clip of them like wrestling it out. And they both ended up not even getting the ball in. Like it didn't end up benefiting them. So I see why there wasn't like too much physical altercation in this challenge.
Yeah. It was really funny to watch. I was just like, okay, they just like get it. Like I'm like, I totally get what he was doing. He didn't want Stephanie to win immunity,
Mm-hmm.
because she is so clearly on the bottom. Um, I
Yeah.
It's interesting how they didn't like do the sort of same thing for Luke, even though I know Luke has been talked to Ian and Noah and we're like, hey, this is the thing, but like Stephanie was also in that plan. Um, so I don't know. Maybe it's because
To,
Stephanie and Abby
to
were
be
more of a duo than Luke was, but we'll see.
yeah. To be fair, Luke is like 6 foot something, and I cannot imagine Tejas trying to like tackle Luke.
But that would be good content.
It would. I actually am really mad at Tejas. Come on, you could have tried. I think you could have done it. I believe in you.
Exactly. It would have been really, really good content.
But
But
yeah, we end up with Luke. We end up with Luke versus Ian, and it's kind of funny because Luke is like 6 foot something, and Ian is like I don't know how tall Ian is, but he's not super tall.
I don't think he's much taller than me. And I'm 5'7".
Yeah, I'd say like is he taller than you or like
No,
I feel
if
like
we
he's like
got,
five
I think we
six.
might be at the same height at most.
Okay.
Short king against tall
Five
boy.
5'7". Well, right, exactly. And like yeah, at that point, like I mean, they weren't gonna tackle each other. It's just who finds the ball. Luke
Mm-hmm.
finds the ball, and he wins. And when this happened, I was kind of like, I feel like this is not good for Stephanie. Like I think she's probably not going to make it
Yeah.
past this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, it was either Stephanie or Emily, and like as soon as we saw that Emily was like talking to people, I was like, yeah, no, it's done for stuff.
Yeah, that's just tough. She was in a tough spot too. It's just like
Mhm.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and then we also get T-Rex winning on the other team.
Yeah,
I don't
T-Rex.
think there was much like there wasn't really anything interesting with that. It was just kind of like T-Rex wins. I will say the funny part was after T-Rex like beats Luke, T-Rex gets to pick which individual immunity necklace he gets, and he's like, "Oh no, Luke, you can pick." And like Luke, I think Luke is either being really nice or sees through it. It's like, "Nah, you can pick T-Rex," and T-Rex is like, "No, you pick." And keeps doing that. And Luke's like, fine, I pick a gold. Then T-Rex is like, I want the gold one. And like, I think already it's funny, but I think it's funnier that like Luke was not falling for it and just T-Rex had to keep trying over and over again to get Luke to like fall for this. And Luke is like, okay, I'll play into your game. And I feel like that represents T-Rex's gameplay like pretty well.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, it's showing that he's like, I mean, he's been proven to be pretty good at challenges too. Obviously, Obsidian hasn't gone to tribal council without being forced. But it's T-Rex, he's just a goofball.
Yeah, but I will say both of these immunity wins seem to be very important for those specific people.
Mhm.
I think it sounds like T-Rex is going if he doesn't win immunity. Like he didn't even show up at the tribal.
Yeah, which kinda sucks, and, like, if you're not showing up to stuff, especially when you've won immunity too, like, it's just hard
Yeah,
to,
and
like,
like
gain trust.
I assume he didn't come because he had immunity, but it's like even then, like I think that like if T-Rex doesn't win immunity, he's probably gone. They just really don't trust him, and like he's so busy. But even with
Yeah.
him being busy, I think he's been a fun character to like
Oh my gosh, yeah.
to be on this show.
He is so fun. Um, but now we get to see Obsidian play Survivor.
Yes, which I'm really happy about. I do think like the early segment like set up what actually ends up happening really well
Mhm.
for the most part. It's very clear that Mason and Justin are like together. And I
Yep.
think the start of the episode kind of like is like, oh, are they going to actually like become like in this majority? Because they're talking to Taylor, they're talking to like a couple other people, I don't remember. Like they seem to be like decently integrated for them, like a
Yeah.
little bit at least. And then, but then we also have this like George, Katie, Jack conglomerate, and it's like, which side is going to end up like being the side? And we get that we do get that as like a little later on.
Yeah. I think we start off with like a bit with Anne, just sort of talking about Sokka and like her reaction to the fight. And she basically was like, everyone on Sokka is so mean to each other. Like they were all taunting each other and taunting Obsidian. And she's like, my
I
tribe's
know
not
she
like
does
that.
not like Sokka, and like I do feel like this like tribe v tribe mentality of like, oh, I hate the other tribe. It's like it happens, but like I feel like it seems like it could be a big factor this season. There has been a lot of focus of like we don't like the other tribe, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering how much of a tribe v tribe it's going to be, but we'll see.
Yeah, because it's so interesting too with Sokka, who's so divided, down the middle. It's like, are they gonna be true to like their selves, or are they going to like be like, no, screw you guys, like I'm going to jump ship. Like,
Yeah, like they very easily could implode, which I'm like, as much as I want to see that, I do think like I like to see like an even battle
mhm,
rather than one side imploding and the other one just not. But I guess we'll
yeah,
see like what happens. But yeah, we get
yeah.
like we get Anne talking about she's happy that T-Rex won. I don't remember why, but I did write that she was happy T-Rex won. I think she doesn't
I have
view
that she
T-Rex as
wanted to
like
work with
a huge
T-Rex.
okay, and that checks out. I think she probably sees that T-Rex is not talking to as many people and wants to use that to her advantage, which is really smart.
Mhm. Yeah, and then Anne also talks about how she likes Ellie a lot, and the two of them threw out Mason's name as a target because he
Mhm.
has proven to be super strategic and is sort of lying about his survivor knowledge and like being like, yeah,
Yeah,
I've watched a couple seasons here and there, but is like very much like, okay, so in the kit situation where if there's a swap next week, we got this, and this, and like obviously the game of survivor, like you're not fooling anyone.
yeah. I was gonna say I do think that was like not a good move by Mason to lie about being a super fan. I think it can be done. It's just it's a very you have to like be so careful about what you say when you say it to other people. Like even if you're up talk
Yeah.
to one person, you're like, hey, let's make this move and this move. People are gonna be like, I think this person knows more than they're talking about. And I think sometimes it's better to just be like, yeah, like I like Survivor. Like that's why I'm playing Survivor. Like I think that's like a good reason. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like some people might be like here's the thing, you don't have to say you're a super fan. Just say you've seen like a decent amount of episodes and you like Survivor and you wanted to play it. then when you talk about like, oh, I think we're gonna swap soon, it's like, well, yeah, he's seen Survivor, but he's not a super fan necessarily. Like, I think that's the way to go about it. And Mason just like does a really bad job of being, oh, I'm not a super fan, and then just completely being like, so what do you think we're gonna swap? Are we gonna swap at this one or this one? Like that at that point, it's like, come on, Mason, like that's on you.
Yeah. But that's just so funny. And then the next segment is the group of 6 going to see Katie's dance recital or dance show, which is
Or
George,
like
Jack, tap show. Okay. George, Jack, Lindsay, Justin, Mason, and Taylor, which sort of seems to be the main like moving force of the show or of the tribe. So
I do want to say there was a tap show, but there was also a really cool percussion group that was also there. And just for context, I'm in a percussion group called Groove. I didn't even realize I was wearing this. And they happened to be just like performing with the tap group, and it caught me so off guard because I was just watching. I was like, oh shit, I'm in that group.
But like 5 years later.
Yeah, 5 years later, I was like, oh wow, that's crazy.
I know, that's cool. I didn't even notice that. Like, whoa, cool tap show. Maybe I was just like not paying attention.
Sophia, I was like, did you see Groove? And Sophia was like, what are you talking about? I was like, go to the tap show. And then she saw the big trash cans with the people jumping on them. It was like, I see what I see.
Oh yes. No, but it was really funny. We're about to say the same thing. And Justin brought his buff.
He wore his buff, and I'm like, I feel like there's always one person that just like always wears their buff, which I love. I feel like sometimes we've had players that just like don't wear their buffs to anything, and I'm like, come on, we spent like $15 on those. Can you please wear them, pretty please? And they like don't. So like when they embraced it and like wear it everywhere, like good on you. And like, hey, it's a bandana. Like you can wear bandanas outside of Survivor. So like I feel like they're giving him a little bit of slack. Like, yeah, it happens to be his tribe, and yeah, he's wearing it like around his forehead, which isn't like a super common thing to do all the time, and definitely how you wear it in Survivor. But still, can they give him some slack? He's representing Obsidian.
Oh yeah. So funny. It was a really good bit. I liked it.
No, like it's a funny bit just to wear it everywhere. Maybe I'll start repping my old tribe buffs.
Just for fun. The next bit though, this is really exciting. We get a Jack confessional in front of the elusive Yoshi wall. Of Sam's apartment.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I was just like, the Yoshi wall is so ingrained into my brain. I don't even like it doesn't stand out. It's just
it stood
like this is a common confessional spot. I was like, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but there was a scene where Justin filmed the entire confessional like in an arcade. And like, it was a little jarring to me. There was pinball machines everywhere. Like, there was fucking like neon lights just coming down on him, and I was like, this is an interesting spot to film.
I wonder if Justin was like to his producer, he's like, I don't really want to film in my apartment. Do you want to go to Pinball Pete's and film a confessional?
Yeah. Was that at Pinball Pete's? I've never been before.
I mean, didn't look like Pinball Pete's. I'm sure it was though, because I don't know of any other arcade in Ann Arbor that's like by campus.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell. Like, it almost looked like he worked there, which would make a little more sense.
If Justin works at Pinball Pete's, that'd be iconic.
Justin also seems to just want to film like at the weirdest places. There's a segment where he's like, or Lindsay is saying how he wanted to meet her at a trampoline park to strategize.
Oh God, he's a crazy cat.
And Lindsay was straight up like, "This isn't a date. Like, why are we going to a trampoline park?"
Oh, that's
I'm
so
disappointed.
funny.
I'm disappointed Lindsay didn't say yes though. I feel like you
I
got to pick up the
know.
opportunity to film a professional or a film like a strategic meeting at trampoline. Like, imagine how funny would that be? You're just like, it's me and Lindsay at the trampoline park. So who do you want to vote out?
Like, that would be so good. Oh,
He's so
missed
good,
opportunity.
for real.
Um, Other than the weird Pinball Pete's confessional, um, sort of going back to Jack, he sort of talked about how he's in a Russian nesting doll of alliances, um,
Mhm.
which is the title of the episode, and how he's like super close. I don't remember how the doll went, but Jack is like super close to George, who's close to Katie, who's close to Taylor, who's close to Lindsay, who's close to Justin, and like sort of this whole like
Yeah,
woo, woo, woo.
a good analogy. I like it.
Oh yeah, it was a really good confessional.
Mhm. And it seems
Um,
to lead us into this like alliance that seems to be the majority alliance on their tribe, which is the Quesadilla Five.
yeah.
Now, all I have to say is thank you for naming it something. I'm sorry, but on the Sokka, I'm tired of saying the Power Five. First of all, Power Five isn't even a real five because Luke's a part of it. But they
Yeah.
still keep referring to it, and I'm like, can you please come up with a name or something that like I can latch onto? Because Power Five is bad. Quesadilla Five, I love a good quesadilla.
Yeah, that was really funny. I was like, when Taylor showed up on the screen, she's like, "All right, so we have this quesadilla 5." And I was like, "Yes, Taylor." Um, and I don't know if you mentioned it, but quesadilla 5 is Jack, George, Katie, Lindsay, and Taylor. Um, I think is a
Yes.
really good 5. I like it a lot.
I really like all. I mean, I like all of Sokka, or sorry, I like all of Obsidian. Like, there isn't really anyone where I'm like, I really hope this person goes.
Yeah.
So I do like this group, and it's tough to like. I'd say George and Katie probably in the best spot because they seem to be really close with Jack, but they also do seem close with Taylor and Lindsay.
Mhm.
But like, I think all of them are aware that like Katie and George are at least producers and like
Yeah.
probably are maybe a little closer than others are leading on to.
Mhm.
So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think like it is a good 5, and I do think like maybe Katie and George are in a good spot right now, but I definitely don't see this lasting. I think like at least from my perspective, it's pretty clear that like they're running this alliance, and I think Taylor, Lindsay, and Jack are smart enough to know that they can't stick with like this 5 forever.
Yeah, and they even sort of mention, like, a 7 forming, adding on Mason and Justin, but no one really
Mm-hmm.
wants to jump the gun to, like, create the alliance, um, and
Yeah,
the
which is interesting. I think people seem to be like sketch of Justin Mason, but also like they kind of want to work with them. I don't know. Like, it seems like maybe they want to work with one of them, and then the other was sketch, and that was kind of like what like the dilemma was. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was just, like, I don't remember exactly either, but, uh, it was just sort of interesting to see how, like, all those 7 people have been, like, the main 7 showing up to, like, tribe bonding stuff, and so they were like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna do that, like, let's all work together, we've already been bonding when we didn't have to, like,
Yeah.
vote anyone out," but no one is taking initiative,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of also shows with, like, they didn't really throw out a name during this whole Obsidian, like, sequence besides for Mason at the very beginning, um and then they sort of talk about towards the end of like Obsidian, um, talking like about possibly like Anne trying to make an alliance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was interesting to see that no one was like taking initiative to throw out names.
What I'm guessing that T-Rex was like such because it's afterwards, it sounds like T-Rex was gonna be like the boot if he didn't win immunity. And I
Mhm.
guess they were just like so confident that like, oh yeah, it's gonna be T-Rex that like no people were obviously forming alliances, but there was no one had any reason to throw out another name. So then
Yeah.
once T-Rex wins immunity, it's like, what do you do? And it seems like Anne and Ellie are kind of like falling to the bottom. But Ellie
Yeah.
does seem connected to some people.
Yeah.
And like, because I think we
Yeah.
like, I mean, we have the tribals, but like we can kind of just like, I feel like this is like the last we get from Obsidian, I think, for
Mhm.
the most part. And it
Yeah.
kind of it leads into like why Anne was the target. It does sound like the KCD 5 was like deciding should they do Mason, should they do Anne. Anne decides to do a FaceTime with all the girls in the tribe.
Yep.
And I think and targeting Mason, I think it wasn't even the fact that she was targeting Mason. I think that was fine. I think it was
Yeah.
just because she made FaceTime with all the girls told the guys, and they were all like, "That's really scary. Like like a girls' alliance is a possibility,
Mhm.
and clearly Anne is the person trying to do that, so we should get Anne out."
Yeah. Yeah. Which
And
is
it sucks because
sad.
I feel like if they would have just went to tribal earlier, or if Anne would have just like maybe like just did something a little different, it could have worked out. It's just the timing of it was really bad. It sounds like it was right before tribal too,
Yeah.
and I think
It's
that sketched out some people.
yeah.
And
Which
like
is
I
fair
don't really
enough.
blame. Here's the thing: I don't particularly blame like Lindsay or Taylor because my guess is those are the two main or KD because they're all in the case of D5. They all
Mhm.
find out about this like and trying to make this girls alliance or whatever. And then like, what do you do if you're in their position? It's like you target Mason. I mean, I don't. I think I'm assuming they were just worried that somebody was going to tell George or Jack because there's three of them to tell, and if one of them
Yeah.
tells, and the other two are like fucked because
Yeah.
they didn't tell. So you're almost incentivized to tell them, which I like. It sucks. We want to see these girls' alliances work, and this seems to always happen, and it
Yeah.
sucks.
Which is a
Especially when
bummer.
Anne is the person that gets the brunt of it.
Oh, Anne. Um, yeah, and that's sort of the last we hear of Obsidian before they go to tribal. Um, and then it's Sokka time, and we start off with Tejas confessional, and he's basically saying like, "Yeah, I just kind of wanted to lay low, but he got super into the challenge and drew a lot of attention to himself with the little altercation that he had
I
with
really like
Sophie."
Stages. I feel like there are a lot of like strategy heavy people on this cast, and
Mhm.
Tejas has done a good job of like alleviating that. Not that
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, I think he definitely has some strategy. Like not to like say he doesn't, but I do think it's coming from a more like clearly like he got too excited and just got into the challenge, and I think it's that I really enjoy from Tejas. He's giving very like um live like reactions to things that are happening and not like game botting it all the time, and I really
Mhm.
appreciate that. And I love he's just like he starts to be like, yeah, I just don't like Stephanie at all, and I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I like Tejas a lot, and I'm glad we got a really good confessional with him today or in this episode. Um,
Mhm.
and he's just such a fun character. Um, and then we get a long moment with Grace. Um, and she
Mhm.
basically tells us
I
that,
really like
"Oh,
this segment from this.
yeah." She first sort of starts off with, like, telling us Luke is such a good liar, like, and he fractured the tribe, like, that's kind of on him. Um, but then we cut to Noah and Grace with Noah having an idol clue that he found at the challenge.
And I'll say I really liked that Noah told Grace about this idol clue. I'm a proponent of telling one person about idol clues. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work and they tell people whatever, but it
Mhm.
seemed to work for Noah. Noah and
Yeah.
Grace seem to be a duo in this game.
Yeah.
And I think just by like giving this information, it's helping Noah a lot and helping Grace a lot. They
Oh,
seem to
yeah.
be locked in, and now they have an idol because Noah finds the idol.
Yep. Yeah, Noah
Now,
has the
did we
idol.
ever find out about the did we ever find out about the other idol clue, or did no one find it?
I don't think anyone found it, or it wasn't talked about.
Interesting. Yeah,
So, I have no idea. But, obviously, Noah and Grace are tight. They're, like they've already told each other that, like, they're each other's number ones. Um, and now they have a lot of power moving forward with the idol, and they're in the majority, like, alliance, so they sort of have it down.
yeah. So then after that, we get a little segment that's talking about Luke, and it flashes back to the challenge, and it actually shows that Luke gives a ball to Ian during the challenge, which I thought was really interesting. Like Luke
Mhm.
clearly knows he's fucked up trying to target Ian and Noah at the
Yeah.
same time and failing. So he's trying to kind of like help them out and be like, "Hey, I'm with you. Everyone else is not important right now. I'm helping you." Which I do appreciate. It's tough to tell how much it worked because Luke wins immunity, so we don't really know
Mhm.
if they wanted to target him or not, or if they would have. But
Yeah.
I do think they're like if you have the opportunity to like give a ball to someone and you want to give it to Ian, go for it. And Luke still won. And it was
Yeah.
Luke and Ian. So like it clearly helped at a little bit at least.
Yeah, and it's interesting how Luke is gonna spin this, and I think it'll be because what I have written down is, Luke, I feel like, is trying to spin the story as if he was sort of tricked by the girls and sort of fooled by this plan to vote out
Mhm.
Noah. Um, and I wonder how I mean, I'm sure it might go well because Abby and next Stephanie are not gonna be there to, like, tell their side of the story, and explain how this plan all went down. So Luke might be able to get away with his, "Oh no, the girls, they made this plan and I said I'd do it with them and yada yada yada," and Lindsay ended up flipping the vote and all that. Um,
Yeah.
so
Although Luke does say that he wants to target Lindsay or Emily and is kind of staying away from targeting Stephanie, which I think is concerning to everyone else because they still view Luke and Stephanie as close.
yeah.
And Luke is claiming that he was just like closer to Abby than Stephanie, or at least people thought that. I'm not sure if he claimed that, but either way,
Yeah.
that's what the like everyone thinks.
Mhm.
But still, they're just like even like I think they were decently close, but even if they weren't, they're associated together, and I think that kind of fucked Stephanie over.
Yeah, and it's just so tough because the last 2 weeks were so, like, back and forth of, like, Sokka of, like, who were they gonna vote off, and this week, it's obviously super clear, like, Stephanie's definitely going home, um, but we do get to see more, of Emily, like we discussed earlier in this episode, um, and she's starting to talk to people, and she said that she didn't hear Abby's name, um, maybe I wrote that wrong, but she wants also people to think like, "Oh, I don't want my reputation to just be like, 'Oh, Emily, I didn't talk to her.'" Um, which is, I think, a good
Mhm.
mindset to have, and I'm glad she's trying to break out of, like, not talking to people, and trying to improve that. It's good to see. It
Yeah.
makes you feel like there's hope in her.
Yeah, no, I like the Emily segment. It was nice to see that she's talking to people, and I think it pretty much explains why Stephanie went and Emily didn't.
N
Emily started talking to people, and it seems like it worked. And like, props to Emily for doing that. I feel like there wasn't much Stephanie could really do.
No, and they didn't really give us a lot of content. I mean, they showed both parts of the Stephanie and Luke conversations with Noah Noah was being like, "So what the fuck happened?" And,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? Like, they be honest, and I guess like I don't love it, but it like I also don't know what I would do. Like, I feel like they did what they probably like the only thing they could do, which is like be honest. And they were like, yeah, like Luke. I think Luke goes a little too far, and Luke goes to Noah and is like, yeah, like dude, you're just the best player in the game, and like I was like, yeah, if we get him voted out, then amazing. But if we don't, then I'd like love to work with you. I'm just like, no, like I think calling him the best player in the game is like wording you don't want to use. I get that you're trying to appeal to his ego, but that's such a like miscall because Noah's gonna remember that and target you because you're just telling other people you're the best player in the game.
yeah. I was like, "Okay, like, great. That's such a really good way to word it. Thanks, Luke." Alright, yeah, so
I
I feel like there
mean,
was nothing much else from Sokka after that, and it kind of rolls right
we can just
into
get to the tribal.
what?
And like I said we can get into the tribals.
Oh, okay, I thought you said we can ditch the tribe meeting, and I was like, "There was a tribe meeting?"
uh, but no, so yeah, we get Sokka's tribe for or tribal first, and we start with I think it was really funny that Luke was calling out Ian during tribal for
Yeah.
his comments at the last tribal. That was so funny. Luke was just like, well, apparently I'm the reason we lost the challenge last week, but I beat you this week, so
Sucks to suck.
and Ian was just like, yeah, I deserve that.
Yeah, that was really funny. Um, a lot of, the questions were all basically like, "Yeah, people took a big shot last week and missed, so that's probably what I'm gonna be voting on," and, like, clearly implying that
Yeah.
Stephanie is going home.
And Stephanie knows this. There's a quote that
Mhm.
she says. She's like, the knife is right there. She looks back and Noah's right behind her. And she goes, that's ironic.
Yeah, that was really funny. I was like, "Oh my god." It was too good. And then
It
Stephanie
was good.
also
But
tried to play, a fake advantage.
yeah,
Um
I was really confused by this. Like, it was a weird, like, I'm guessing what her goal to do, because she did say, like, oh, yeah, like, I can use this for like when we swap or whatever,
Mhm.
use it for you guys, which, like, that was her intent. I think the problem is Ian and Noah like grabbed it from her immediately and didn't let her speak at all.
Yeah,
And
I
it was, I mean, the good on Ian's side. They were like, let's discard, like, let's make sure that this isn't a problem. I do think the rules of Steph's advantage were a little too specific,
yeah, I
and
thought
it
they
did
were
not help that Noah found an idle clue on a tennis
mhm.
ball, which I get. Like Stephanie, it was the last ditch effort. I'm not gonna blame
Yeah,
her too much. Like, she really couldn't do anything.
yeah, I get, like, where Ian and all of them were coming from. As an empath, I kind of felt like they were being really brutal about it. Like, she's
Yeah,
already going home, no need to rub salt in the wound. Like, she's trying to like do something to save her spot in the game. She clearly wants to be here, but um, she just took a big shot too early, and it cost her her game.
yeah. Um, yeah, and then she gets voted out. Just nothing. It was sad. I like once Abby was gone, I feel like the writing was on the wall, and then Luke won
Yeah,
immunity, and the writing was on the wall two more times. Like it was just tough go for Steph. I think
yeah,
she just there wasn't a lot she could do, and it
yeah.
sucked to go because I liked her.
Me too. She was fun. And I also thought it was interesting that the 3 votes, that weren't for Stephanie were for Emily, which is not that's not the shock. The shock was more that Luke still voted with Stephanie.
I was more surprised that Lindsay voted for
That
Emily.
too.
That was
I
the
was
one where I was like, so now you're gonna work with Luke and Stephanie? Like,
yeah.
what is Lindsay doing? Like,
I
this is going to just
don't
make
know.
people more sketch of her. Like,
Yeah.
it really does. Like, I get that she wanted Emily out, but I think it seems to be a classic situation of like people on the bottom being pinned against each other, and it's to the point where like you almost have to go for them because if you like you don't realize that you all could work together.
Yeah, and it's just sort of a bummer, but at least Emily's on the right side of
Yeah,
the
and it's
vote.
like, yeah, that was nice to see. Although she wasn't gonna vote for herself, so
What?
I mean, like to be fair, I was like, theoretically, Lindsay and Emily could have teamed up and all voted like someone else. They could have all tried to vote
Mhm.
no again,
Yeah.
and it would have been a 4-4 vote. But like, I don't think Lindsay or Emily wanted to like do that. Like
Yeah.
they're not super close to Luke and Steph.
No. And that would have been I mean, that would have been tough to orchestrate, especially from the
Yeah,
bottom. Um, but yeah, Stephanie
yeah,
goes
and
home on
then
a
we
5-3
so
vote.
then yeah, and then we get the Obsidian Tribal. T-Rex does not show up because he's immune, and I guess he's like, oh well, I'm immune, so
So I'm busy and
I
I
don't know.
won't
My
go to the
T-Rex impression
tribal.
is just like an Italian man. I don't know why.
Didn't he say he was from France?
He talked about French Survivor. I don't know if he's
Um,
actually from France, but I don't know where else you would
mm,
watch French Survivor. So probably.
maybe they said in the first episode and I've already forgotten because it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, this tribal is mostly just everyone being like, yeah, T-Rex was gonna go home if you didn't win immunity.
Uh-huh. That's all they said.
Like it was. Yeah, there was a funny moment where like I forget the question specifically, but Brady asks, I think Jack a question, and Jack gives a very like quote unquote cop out answer,
That
and
was Justin.
George is like, wow, cop out answer. It was Justin. Okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Justin was the one that said the cop out answer, or Justin was the
Yeah,
person
because
that said
he said
cop out answer.
because he addressed Brady as he goes, "Well, Jeff," and then he just like, "We're gonna vote this week to keep the tribe strong." And then George is like,
Oh,
cop
okay.
out answer."
And then Brady was like, okay, George, give me a real answer. And George was like, okay, well, I've been sick for the last 24 hours. And just like a really funny, he was like, yeah, no, I would have given a cop out answer too. Which I thought
Yeah,
was funny. It was kind of like, because like, I mean, when you're sitting in tribal, it's like, it's so annoying when every person's like, yeah, like, I don't know, we'll see what the vote's gonna be. But then you get asked
yeah,
a question and you're just like, yeah, we'll see what the vote's. You're not gonna, you don't want to be the one to be like, yeah, this is what's happening. But at the same time, it's so boring when every other person's like, cop out answer, cop out answer, cop out answer. Sometimes you just want to be like, wake up, this is what's happening. Like,
yeah.
we all know it. Like, stop being stupid. Like, we all know what's
Stop
happening.
dancing around the bush.
And then the only other thing that happens before the vote is Ellie is like, yeah, like my name's out there. Please don't vote me. And
Mhm,
I don't hate it from her. Or so I don't hate it from them. I think they
mhm.
like it was clear that Ellie like was on the outs and they realized they're on the outs
Yeah,
and they're trying to like integrate themselves back in. And I do like, is it the best place to do it at tribal? Like it's not gonna probably amount to much, but I think like it was worth the effort.
yeah, I agree.
And clearly Ellie, I think the Ellie in relation, like we were shown that they're like close, but I think they were like each other's like closest allies, and I think that was undermined a little bit. And Ellie is getting a sense that it's probably Anne
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
them. It's one of the two.
yeah, and they just unfortunately weren't included in the majority alliance and tried to put together that girls alliance, which got back to the guys, and obviously the guys are gonna be like, "Oh, Girls Alliance."
Yeah. So it sucked to see another good girl get voted out. Like that's already 3,
3 of
which is really
them!
frustrating.
I know, and I
Yeah.
think T-Rex voted for Ellie because there was one random Ellie vote.
Yeah, wait, what was the vote count?
I
I kind of didn't write that down.
had 2 Mason, 1 Ellie, and then the rest were Anne. I didn't want to do the math.
Okay, so I'm guessing that Anne and Ellie both voted Mason.
Yeah, and
And
then
then
T-Rex voted Ellie.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Checks out.
Which is so like, did T-Rex talk to anyone? Like, what made him decide Ellie?
I don't know.
Such a strange,
I don't
strange
know. It's a
man.
weird. Yeah. I don't know, but sucks that Ellie's probably in a not a great spot right now. I hope that they can recover, but people seem to like Ellie. I think I forgot who it was, but I think it might have been Taylor or someone that was like, I don't want to vote Ellie out. Like I like Ellie. I want them to
Mhm.
like be included more. We didn't get like a lot from that, but I do think like people want to work with Ellie. It's just
Yeah.
sometimes it's like tough to integrate people when there's already so many people in the alliance.
Yeah, yeah, which is so fair. But I'm glad they're keeping them around. Because Ellie's
Yeah.
fun and I like them.
hmm And then that's pretty much it for the episode. We do get a next time on Survivor, and we find out we're swapping. Woohoo!
Yeah.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see if I mean, is it gonna be 2 tribes or like because it's 16 people left, so
Mhm.
you would think 2 tribes, but it could also be like 3 tribes and then like one person's like exiled or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And they're like, what if they are the difference maker, the one that's exiled or something?
Oh, that's actually a really good idea. It might be that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, I guess you'll have to wait and see till next episode.
My God. Well, tribes of 5 are also super interesting because they're an odd numbered tribe, so, there's, like, not a real good chance of rocks or, like, a tie.
Yeah.
And I think they're really fun to watch.
But it's also so much easier to flip if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes for some interesting gameplay.
I just realized I didn't think about a question of the day, but I just came up with a question of the day. Don't worry, we're good. Okay,
I have
so
to
if
think
you
of my
could film
question
a
of the day too.
confessional anywhere, where would you film it? Personally, I think. Oh, I know your answer. Hush. I would want to go scuba diving and film it underwater, except I just realized I couldn't really talk, but we'll figure that. We'll put captions and I'll just like mouth and it's like the bubbles, and then the captions will just be like, I really want to vote Sophia off this week, blah blah blah.
Wow.
Kidding.
Fake. You're fake for that. I would want to
Kidding
film
this
a
week.
confessional in front of the Magic Kingdom, which happens to be where I'll be filming the
Whoa.
podcast starting the week of January 8th. It'll be a grand old time, and I'm gonna be living in Disney World. So as the end of season 6 comes out, maybe you'll see a podcast if you're watching on YouTube with a very nice, pretty background of the Magic Kingdom. So
Okay, whatever.
that leads to my question. And this is just because I love Disney World so deeply. If you were to pick which theme park embodied you the most, it doesn't just have to be a Disney theme park, although I do like those answers. What theme park do you think encapsulates you as a person?
See, I've been to like no theme parks. Like I've been to Cedar Point, and that's it.
I like Cedar Point. It's a fun time.
I love Cedar Point. It's my favorite theme park that I've been to.
Roger,
can you call it a theme park? There's not a theme. The theme is roller coasters.
Yeah, that's a theme. It's a theme park or an amusement park. But
Okay.
I feel like Roger.
I like,
feel like,
yeah, like I don't know if they're like, I don't know if amusement parks are considered theme parks, but like I like haven't been to a real theme park, so I'm like counting it. The
so
theme is
fair.
roller coasters.
Roger, I feel like you would be. I don't know. Something's giving me Animal Kingdom. Just because.
I like that.
Yeah, like you very much like have like these branches of like just like, oh, what's Roger up to? Like sometimes, you never know. And you got your quirkiness with Dino Land and you got your like
Mhm.
exploration with like Africa and Asia, those themes of like, oh, I play Survivor. And then Pandora is very much like, oh my god, he did this groove thing all of a sudden. Whoa.
Yeah.
And it all
Mhm.
surrounds the tree of life.
Mhm.
Can you tell
Sophia,
I
I
like
almost
theme
forgot.
parks?
You should ask about my hat that I'm wearing.
What's your hat? Number one dad. Ho, 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 ho.
I'm not a dad. I just saw this hat and I think it's really funny.
I love it. God is amazing. But yes, those are your questions for this episode of KYTL. Where would you want to film a confessional? It could be anywhere in the world. And what theme park embodies your personality? We want to know. We like
Yep.
questions, and you have answers.
Yep.
But that is all we have for
And
this week. Roger, do you want to
yep.
sign it off?
We'll see you guys next week. Which for us is soon because we film this like right before the next episode.
Yeah, it's A-okay.
We're so good at this. It was finals week. We had a good excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
hopefully we can actually get a guest next episode. Hopefully we can get some exit interviews coming your way. They're in the works.
We're working on it. But we appreciate you for sticking around with us for another fantastic episode of KYTL.
Wait, there's one more thing we have to do.
Oh?
Last time I remember I was annoyed because we were at 200 subscribers and we went to 199. So I need to do a little check.
I know what we're at.
So there
As
we go.
the channel manager.
Okay, what are we at?
202. So we passed 200.
3 new people.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hit 205.
Right, you said it here. Let's do it.
Yep.
You guys are the best.
Okay. Yep, that's all we got.
Peace and
And
love.
remember, keep your torch lit.